shira ani tatai kran samege chi susu kare shi ni ra kare dewa gi ju kare re samge ne khase tin se jilawa di tu cheche ani choshe le de rang do tagi khase gi choshe le ta di son san de ge sira di chi bu mar da choshe le kirang gi kyo ma ne kangi mambu chile ora kana kangi pero shawa inara 계승이 망아디 중설의 무엇이 아셔지 무엇이게 나는 내단 담보 하고 메와 제대로 시원해 내가 아그 응을 거디네 두두가 찍 인가 쪽부이가 갈 강이 로래 라디도 아무니 강이 쉬어서래 삼자 제랑아 토도다 아니 칭데 윤테라 젤타디도가 코로나 캄바도라 부니도 부모 내가 지도 부에 뭐라도 땅을 치도 안 뭐라 근데 경고рем도 아니 내가 두두도 내가 치더라 아니 캄반도 직상주 통한 참여하고도 실로라 신가도 쉬는 도라 안타 디타지도 아니 게 교원이 주고 쉬는데 내가 주고 쉬는 사람 삼성스라 내 수수 초기래 지구래라 저랑 오늘 단다 저랑 자진 참여한데도 알아라 그래서 보니 탐보르제 경고рем도 내반рем도 아니 저랑 내가 진이 미송도라 내가 지금도 소고에는 짐도 안 대산에 야타시도 아니 다 간다 그냥 디기부 이마삼나 다 로게르게르도레 아니 부르 실로도 되는 안 텔레카니 마트스라 단다 저런 기부 이거 쳐버려달라요 미카실라 대사 캄바요 말스라 미카실라 사야 지금 나라만다 안데도 미카지 배 나니야 근데 그냥 너도 상말레 친 무슨 소버려도 알아요 근데 그 심의하고 아 오늘에 샹아 칠라이데 덴바르레죠. 제가 하마고나 디 초실에들아 하마고나 단동알아 메행아렘도 엔도 삼리다. 어디치래야? 초실에 아 당가 디송란에 내가 찌마제 디라고 말아. 디치고 말았어.
So I would like to thank all of you for sharing your ideas about happiness and the source of happiness openly and without hesitation to the group. And now, in your sharings, many of you addressed this attitude of contentment, and I think there is a misconception here that you think that contentment is this attitude that this much is enough, and I won't need to do anything more now. You think I think this is a misconception. So, to kind of give you an example about what the practice of contentment really means, then I want to recount a personal incident that I had in my interaction with one of the ladies from the nearby villages. So every time I meet this lady from the village, she always recounted how poor she is, how financially challenged she is, and recounted like recounted the fact that she's poor. And so as I repeatedly heard these from her, then I felt like, oh, she really needs help, and I should do what I can to help her. So I took the decision to visit her house in the village, and I went there with some sacks of flour or wheat and some sugar and some basic rations to kind of as a form of help. And when I reached her house, I noticed that she had a house which has like all the facilities, amenities. She had like a separate bathroom, like enough quarters for everyone. Not only that, she had like her sons and daughters, and in that family there were 3 active earners, wherein like one of the son was a driver, a taxi driver, and so on and so forth. And as I noticed this, then I realized like this lady didn't really need my help. She had like everything she needed there actually. And so this is an example of the lack of contentment. So then, as I noticed this stark reality that she wasn't really poor, then I kind of advised her that you need to really, you have everything, like, everything you need here. Your sons and daughters, they are earning, and your house is not a depleted one. Your house has all the amenities, basic amenities that you need, and you are not old right now, so you can work too. And if you are not able to be content with what you have, then sooner or later, age, you will face the ravages of age too. You will get old, and then as you get old, and physically you will not be able to do any work. And likewise, your sons and daughters wouldn't be with you all the time. As time goes on, they would want to pursue their own dreams, and they would want to leave their home too. And at that time, then you will have a great sense of regret. So this is the way I kind of advise her to practice contentment with what she has.
manzo ta chi dewale de karsana sen nyumondo wanda maswa lajdo tungune nga ta nambe jun shine pe nenga ro chabura manzo shide mayu ya de nyumo utuk shegora ra tena nyumo la ya de tsini khoran tsini yurra tsini la raju mashiwa chibi chile chi senjung la raju ran sendira mashiwa shiwa mebasani mashiwa chibi 지레지기 생중들을 하려고는 요모라 오라. 그래서 요모 단도 프란치기래디 요모디를 가서 봐 칼로르디 요모디 원데 마쇼아 소도니들 가서 대화 속둘러서 동문들이 시대로 싫어.
So then one of you also talked about how happiness for you was this not being under the influence of the negative afflictions. Now this is a very pertinent point, and it kind of aligns with the basic and core teachings of Buddhism. So in Buddhism, when we look at the technical definition of negative afflictions, then it is that mental factor which disturbs the natural peace of the mind. So this is the cause of our suffering, these negative emotions, and this is what disturbs the peace, and this is what disturbs the happiness that we seek.
Yes, 당한도를 되게 뭐들 만들어라. 아니 저는 참이게 되게 배하고 들어있네. 아니 참말 렌스케 저거에 들어. 근데 인자 단당한도 로준 치지마디 가르라나다 로준 치지마디 거나 단다 까담배기 아니 개바시라. 아니 개바기 실랑랑을 담아라이 이제 같이 흉지래. 네 가르때 올라나 로준 되게 아니 탑단 시랍 와. 실랑하지 마도야 말에 되게 가르 탑된 거래 아니 담아되게 아니 시랍. 아, 뒤때문에 아니 심지 차고 그랬어. 아니 당아서 로종을 가라가 저기 찍기 산으로 받아 파면 빵고야 나와야 야제 컨테스트 땅고야라 정다르치니 들으려고라. 근데 저기 아니 디건한테 해자고 그랬어.
Yes. And so then we will now move on with the actual root text itself, the 8 verses of training the mind. And everybody has a copy of the text. So then the 8 verses of training the mind was written by Geshe Langri, and the Geshe Langri comes from the lineage of Kadamba tradition, which was a lineage of practitioners in medieval Tibet, and the 8 verses of training of the mind as a text, it has only 8 verses. And these 8 verses, the first 7 verses talk about how to cultivate the method, and then the last verse talks about how to achieve this wisdom and to realize this wisdom. And when we look at the title of the text, it says 8 verses of training the mind. And herein, when we say training the mind, then we need to, it means that to train the mind in the positive qualities of the mind, and to abandon and rid the mind of its negative qualities. Yes.
Del habe tenju dribe sambai ta de jiban zema sho sra. Che zang jidang yi ngang zu ge jik simjen le de ra. Ngang zu jik le jin de jang ha shi kelen yi na mar chi simjen tham de le de so so gi ma che ma ni ba chi ja me la ra. Tende yin zang ani tende wi ani mana la dewa mu ya gi chi de ngang zu de de du ya gi chi de ani tende gi simjen de ya so so la. De de ko ra shi gi no go ru mu che zao chi bu shi bu zu go ran zam ni ngang ra. Ta no bu la Di nāshīngi āni simjian dōzō yinā sōsō la tsawa chīmbu chāgō rē, sōsō jindō rūpa yinā rē, zōpa gōmnā yinā rē, āni chī kārī chēwō kōntō la tēnā ngā tō chē chō rā. Rā, tē tāntō mā chō sōsō yinā yā pā la kōntō la chī simjian ñam tāpa dōzō la rūpa kārī nē shī tō gō rā. Chī kī injī pēnchō chī pō gā mā rē, āni ngā tō lū ngā yē sōng gā rā. Lulu yinā sōsō mī kārī la rūpa chē rē, ngā gō nī chē rē, chī sānō tāntō hā mā gō nī tēndē lē, lab chē chē nī sānō tāngshō chō wā tā, ngā zō lū ngā yē sōng chī gō nī mī rā pā, rūpa chē yī rā.
So then, now going on with the actual text itself, when we look at the first verse, it reads, "By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear." And now in this text, when we talk about sentient beings from the Buddhist perspective, then it is kind of explained in this manner, that from beginningless time, we have taken countless births, and as we have taken countless births, then all sentient beings at one point of time has served as our mothers in one of those births, past lives. So as they have served as our mothers, then we should develop an attitude of great gratitude to all sentient beings, and so then we look at the all sentient beings as no different from our mothers. We need to develop this attitude first, and then by referring to all sentient beings as mothers or mother sentient beings, then in our actual practice of the Dharma, then when we look at investigate it properly, then these very mother sentient beings serve for us as the basis of our practice. If we want to practice tolerance, generosity, without these mother sentient beings, then it is kind of impossible to practice these qualities or cultivate these qualities. And then, so for that very particular reason, then we should hold these mother sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, because they serve as the basis and object of our practice. And then, from our own perspective, as a practitioner, if they, as a mother sentient being, gives us this opportunity and basis for our practice and cultivation, then from our own side, we need to think of ways of benefiting these sentient beings. And it does not mean that when you say benefit or help others, it does not necessarily mean that you have to help them materially or physically. In Buddhism, we talk about the three doors of action, which are the body, speech, and mind. So we can use through any of these three doors, we have the opportunity to benefit sentient beings or mother sentient beings.
소소인네 소소 미치그라 소소 가지 집에 미치그라 그 미심바치랑 저기 대화도 미는 심지 심바카리라 심지 하실래 당가츠는 찜마도라 다 미치 기부 주나가래 미심바스 참마다 아니 기부 주나가래라 저라 세상 한쪽이 눈에 또 운서대 간대 오는 라니 나라는 기부산도 다데 되리오라 ngāzu kāngi māmbu 소소 집보산은 다 남이 질세는 nga 집부 주는 쇼 남이 심바 가르치는 제를 땅을 찍지 아니 야 제캅샤는 ngāzu 제캅도 야부 주는 쇼 심바 제캅 가르치는 쇼네 딘디 랑 진진 라지다 ngāzu kāngi mām부 랑 진진 라니 야고 차는 심바 가르치는 쇼네 고유라 따나 마제지 다 가리네 가리 토리미라 소소 집부 삼다데 라제 진방라이죠 틱 삼다데 ngāzu kāngi mām부 된리거다 제가 같이 보면 많이 군도자 되고 그래. 나도 좀 봐. 나도 냠바라. 어딘데 지사는 땅토에는 대화랑 시리라.
So then when we look at this verse, then we need to kind of take into account this fact first, that if we think about our own happiness, this pertains only to one individual, which is ourselves. And when we think about the happiness of other, then this other is limitless, countless. And this is why when we strive to achieve happiness or benefit others, then it is more profound for the practice. And now when we look at the fact that when we think only about ourselves to the exclusion of others, then this is the source of all the suffering and all the problems in the world. For example, if we only think about ourselves, or in the instance of a country, if we think about our own country only, then this has a detrimental effect on the country itself. And then for the immediate, we see like environmental problems, natural disasters coming out of this self-centered, selfish attitude when you think only about oneself or one's own country itself. And then this kind of this selfishness also pushes you to develop an attitude of wanting victory for yourselves, and then kind of wanting to inflict defeat upon others. And this is the kind of attitude that naturally festers in us when we only think about our own happiness as an individual or as a country. So this is the source of all suffering. This like self-cherishing, self-grasping, self-centered attitude. Thus.
Then Jacob Jilla Peshawanara, the Pedagala Dogi me Kodedwa. They Jacob. Then Susu Tachik Jeburuina, Jebuina, Resinzena, Resino Harinara, Susu Jacob Mimadi Joyala, Dilayang, Kochashin, the Karinura. Tadi Jongwala and Jonta machine, Yada Koya Woji Chugotin water. China machine, the deep such a sour, Mitchik Nandora. Then Matangara Jacob the Apo, Jongo Samich Che, Annie Shimbagi Jacob Shambala Maja or the Nishira. And Shimbati Maja in a dig only there, the Wishling mother. They watch Tayoman, Hanna Pagi the Mara, and me Mambu say or Pagila Mammy Mambu say or the Mammies on the Mahingi, Dilla, Jimbato, Jambamdo, Shawan, Sanjay Mambu Kazumbudu, Kazushi, Ra, the Debaji Sagire. He had to correct that they were Marang Jacob, the Dewachi Dugusan, Debajura. Pashodali, in a Pashodi, Tagal de Maria, Sumajara, and the Jula Takara Sosu, Mammy to Troyado, such a de Trolado, and Idia, Tubadi, Church, Machundoyamra. Sister, Nazuki, Tawana, Dewa Timu with Dumini and Gobajusra. They want to worry, a Pochini to work, Chirama Hill, no is a Kangimamucha. Tia Karsana, the Dugala Ranch in Zeligal, Suzuran, Jicati, Apoche child, the Shukuchaya, Jika Amtambochaya, and Tadin Damura. In a mute indigent, Chirama Hini, the Kangichiligo, Dia and Ranch in the Rocha. Yes. Did the Mayanki, Tamasam, Apochitani. Pagi Jacob Shambagi met and the Jugi Chike Korandi, Gotijura, Queen Kesha Aposhi, did the war in my mind at that time today Apochena and if I pass Jacob, Tupaja Moboya, she didn't alapa to the Belgra. I wanted to know that they were
Yes. So then, if I kind of relate this to an example, then I think the point will be illustrated more clearly. And now let's take the example of a country. And if there is a leader, say a prime minister or a president, and of course, as a president or a prime minister of that particular country, then he naturally has an allegiance to that country and the general population of that country. This is natural, and as such, he also has the well-being. And the well-being of that particular country in his mind. But when like this self-cherishing and self-grasping manifests itself at this level as a leader of a country, then if he does not really think carefully and adopt a skillful method in his relation with other countries, then small conflicts arises between countries, and it gives rise to major wars between countries. And if that particular leader at that time is not able to think broadly enough, and then just selfishly thinks only about that country itself, and even though he has the best of intentions in wanting to protect the interests of that particular country and population, if he engages in war, then it doesn't really achieve any meaningful result, wherein both the country they suffer, not just the loss of human life, but environmentally they both suffer, relation suffers, and then even in that war, blameless animals, they also suffer death. And in that kind of conflict which arises when this self-cherishing manifests itself at that stage, then it kind of worsens an already bad situation. So in Buddhism there is a verse which kind of explains this paradox, wherein like even though we want to achieve happiness, but due to the influence of ignorance, then we establish in ourselves just the opposite of that, or we establish in ourselves just the source of suffering. So herein, if the leader of that particular country at such a moment of conflict is able to kind of take into account public opinion, take into account the fact that dialogue is the best step forward, then it serves to pacify the situation as well, and then it gives the platform for both countries to kind of build a more meaningful and harmonious relation.
안주 미마 옛날에 심지 등도 땀 무슨 상지라 롱도 취도도 참 비슷한 거니 사마절라 편도 친구여라. 라. 난 딘데기 선다고 그 미치 거의 순제 된달래가 야고 지체와 있나라. 심지 신발에 편 인바처럼 라니라 쇼도 편 인바라. 라도 쇼도 두. 라. 라게 미마다 라게 제카다 라게 나미다. 그 참말로 라시게야 야보자. 제가 얘기 치도 산다네. 거의다. 단단 가서 디무토 집으면 이게 거의 야고 손제 진이나 무토니 마야 고르라 단도 거의 따진 쉬우시 땅 가서 봐대 도 자에네 자 또신 또베 또 치도 봐 저 제난 담으로 채워이나 단단 가서 다 디도 차샤시 마음바도 백강이 체인이라 라 근데 이제 가시기 거의 손제라던데 아 돈도다 된데라야 손제 체인도 도중원에 되는 내가 야보라 야
So then this is an example of the thinking only about oneself or the self-cherishing or self-grasping manifesting itself in this situation, and how it has a negative effect on the general situation. Now when we think about the opposite of that, in this day and age, there are many people who are concerned about the environment. And now when we look at people who are concerned about the environment, then when we look at that particular movement, then such an activist, when we think about him or her, then in this instance, he or she has the general benefit or general well-being of not just oneself, but others in his or her mind. Now in that relation, he or she also has the future generation in his or her mind too. And in this relation, when we look at it, not only by thinking about the well-being of others, not only is he able to kind of impact their well-being and have an effect on the changes that he or she wants to bring, but incidentally and naturally one's own well-being and one is incidentally and naturally benefited naturally as a consequence of this good intention of wanting to help others and thinking about the future generation. So if we do not think about future generation, or do not have a care or concern for the environment, and if we keep polluting our waters, if we keep on this deforestation, and we keep on mining, then it naturally has a very bad consequence for us, this generation, as well as the future generations suffer more as a consequence of our negligence. So this is the way in which thinking only about yourself and taking into account others' well-being has an effect on your own happiness.
세상 zamigala eleya shinde duwe chiniga thungore de inza ta hanzo ngara suzu gungone me shimbala ni yago chetune pe abra te matu na me shimba yago chini duzula de jese iran che ra ani dile japchu che pe kishimda shuzo na yago chini dile jep go epe ki ra azu di yapo chini ji dile malam sama the me ba so shana di ma se shagra se de yapo chini dala su chi mo na cha oni che ba de pe abor ra tisan ta ma chi support je che mo ji ta ma mo jo ra 와 근데 제 베이크 좀 레스토랑 다들 단단하게 자체선 시에봐 다 춘주로 지시면은 소소 제급직이 아니 고트지 뭐이나라 제급직 자와이나 소소이게 하산난다기 고트디 베 미망하게 시대 오야 시더라 아니 하산난다 제가 담보장샤 제 고자리 숨마제 야포 채와이나 소소 코랑이 삼타와이나 코랑이 미마다 아니 코랑가우 미마 참하게 삼다 보라 이네 코랑 미슬에 라시 제보이라 라는 쇼지두서 코란 삼대 갔다 올라나 마치 보면 지금 이게 니 미마도 자고 니 미마도 두고 마오나 사야 통해 옛날에 제가 야제도 옛날에 벤조야 보도 옛날에 아니 제가 심발에 텐디야 되게 삼았다는 코란 내가 라산다 야고 치워이나 코란다 코란이 남미다 다 참anyam도 유해 봐라 제가 된데디야 이야 삼부터 신을 당거데 라신 란데 셜두르다 온된데로 자
So then, as we see this environmental activists or any other activists who are working towards achieving a certain goal which is of benefit to others, then I think it is very important to kind of commend these people and to support these people and be inspired by them. And in this instance, then if you are not actually able to actively participate in their movement or like actively support them, then actively be an activist yourself, then it is very important not to discourage these people, but to but to have a show of support for these people and be inspired by them. Now, this is an example. These are two examples I cited. Now, let's think about another example too. Now, in contrast to the first example, if there is a leader of a country who is well-intentioned and who doesn't engage in all this corrupt practices that politicians indulge in, and then he really kind of works towards the welfare and benefit of his jurisdiction, then this, if we look at that, then his own well-being and his own happiness is an incidental and natural effect of the good intentions and the good practices that he has. So this is the way how the generation of altruistic intention has the incidental and natural effect of have on your own well-being and happiness.
다딜레 마충산 마시 마파우나라 아주 자청고침들은 삼다도 문들산이야 수준 남이지레 배샤바이나라 남이도 참고치 아니 수준 보고요 부부도도 랍자야 보자 나오잖아 볼때 아니 지 미칠래야 돼 아주 다 째와다 시원이는 아주 라와케야 뭐라 데비린래 아니 가지치고 데마데 아주 나라 수해라 제가 미 미칠래야 직 갈로다 로 데질라 추도냠도 데투래 가서 세제도 뭐라 사님이 바차이 나님이 바차이 승열도 하고 말로 제중 제봐요 뭐라 근데 인자 데비린래 남이 참고 참보 지부고 부줄로 상종 연구에나 따도야 보지 근데 지금 데에 뺏게 참보라 봐 마충서 충서 마파우나.
So then these are like a very big and kind of vast examples of the effect of generating an attitude to benefit others. Now, like if we talk about a more relatable example, then let's think about a family itself, or everyone as a human being has a family, and or a community. And now, when we think about our human existence itself, then birth and death, these are two facts of life over which we cannot escape. Since we are born, it is certain that we will die. But the duration that we have, the in-between, and the duration we have is also uncertain. There is no certainty that you will have like a particular amount of time with your family. It is very uncertain. But with this short, uncertain duration between birth and death that we have with our immediate families or near or close ones, then in our relation with our family and our near or close ones, then if we are able to have love and compassion, care and concern for these immediate other family members, then naturally it's a relationship of comfort, happiness, and so forth. So without a care and concern for your immediate family and near ones, then there is no sense of comfort or happiness in the family or community. Yes.
다단단한 제차래 안 단단한 랑가를 무슨 랑가 시간이 돌리려라 먼저로 정어지도 니기다 네 드서라 ਸਮਝ도리 다디가래 가지디 하고 말아 지지는 랑가 시간에 지지는 베지 랑가 뭐 랑가 조 차이 조로이기라 근데로 땅가도 가고갈래 하고 말아 다 수수이 니마 제셔주 내가 노르도 지 수준 주바제 다디 제함도 다디 디마선 선주바제나 개와사고라 다 단도 청하다 마음을 지지해질 하대 가지하임 하고 말해 대등이 오늘 다리는 소등에 아버지 치고 사면 수수수 담자로 샤라 남리베 메르게 시나데 츠츠부 통주로 치르게네 나디 치기면서면도 이마야 그마그 좀 마시 잡아로 이제 갔다 근데 두제 진이데 유지 말라 이네 앞에도 샤면 때 진이에 와이네 다리는 소데 치기면서면도라 아니 치기 밀로 통주 치기네 하리지나 소등이만 노티 가르치기네 다니는 소등가 미치 아버지 치기 사면 수수 군는 남바다 키니 근데 제토이나 아니 소세 딜 셀 하마들 지보용아 라 미드즈 잠발 어 녜마 코두제 쇼다 디페 조아 쇼드실래 리워라 녜마 이처럼 마가니 미드즈야 타 니르 숨을 라 근데래 편도로 소소에 끼우요래 어디 말아서 미스 되는 데 발아야디 미스 톨라마나 데 베키 좀 보라 아 뭔데
So then, since we are all kind of adults and we have almost kind of invariably reach like a midpoint in our life, since we are not young children, and then we have lived a certain portion of our life already, and then what is left of our life, even though the duration is uncertain, then if we kind of look back on our lives, then I'm not saying that you have engaged or committed such negative such misdeeds in your life, but if we have engaged in misdeeds such as like humiliating other people intentionally, and then generally like kind of engaging in negative deeds, then it is very important to kind of develop from this point on a sense of immense regret that you engaged in such misdeeds and that you have inflicted harm upon others, and that with this immense regret, that make a vow to yourself or promise yourself from now on to develop a pure intention that you will not engage you will not repeat such previous misdeeds. And if you are able to do that, then the rest of the life, portion of life that we have yet to live, could be a meaningful one. That's
제가 단다 말아서게 치료해 말라 단다 가서 되뉴 미리터 가서 계시고는 시도를 도고는데도 지금 수술을 누가 강해 싫어 이미지 집변적으로 같이 집어 말아 가리는 수술은 전수 빠져 미스 수술을 열어라 수술 경고를 받지 지시를 주주주주 자르자르나 제를 수술을 가 되게 나오들 빠베게 하셔 때문에 정리가 담보한다 마산한다 그다보다 제를 비게 좀 봐. 이내 양은 저기 뒤출래도 시장 제야마다 먼저 마체 남이기 쇼거 돼서 봐. 집 투자다 진짜 잡아다 되네 집 상승이 되는 것도 딘델 인도도 다들 산라바디 가바도 나도 쇼인도 봐. 이 조야에 먹고 찍던지 좀 상호다해도 레임다. 제장들이 인디가 나가는 저기 소소 잠도 소소 상호다가 쇼로라도 와도 상호도 가서 직당 안에 빌려라고 거 돈을 열어. 라 실라도는 나도는 많이에는 가리는 거라서 좋았다요. 근데 인자 단다 가서 치료해 말은 가서 수수이나 단다 참말로 신시로 단에 제투는 가리는 직상을 다에는 당투니로 딱게 고로 차선 이제 간반나 라반나 고나 되는 직근나서 뭐볼래 되는 상다에 파샤주라 로바 제를 파샤 상다에 투마로 근데 찾는다 가서 참에게 제나 제투에 누가요 들이가는 하나 참에 들라마다 제 아니야 가서 엔데 참에게 다 개마다 나한테 주주 있으나 너 지마쳐 아디 지마쳐 야 산이 쳐 다 개마 주주 지마쳐 근데 가서 배 뒤좀 한번 쳐라도라 카톡도 야가 쳐야 돼 단단한 제고 또 누자인한테 시장 전에 갈리갈이야 제모도 했잖아 개입니다 라 야포지는 카톡 제투에 제대 뺏게 좀 그래서 좋다입니다.
So then, when we think about transforming our lives, and transforming our mind, then it is very important that in this instance we are all young adults, and as young adults we are still blessed with physical capabilities, our sense faculties are still intact, and our intelligence is still intact. So with this, it is very important to kind of work towards transforming our mind, and work towards transforming our mind by developing a pure intention or pure motivation. And now in this day and age, there are many sources due to technology, such as cell phones and the internet in general, and so on and so forth. There are many sources of distractions which kind of deters us from really setting forward on this transformation of ourselves and our mind, and then we keep procrastinating this task. We keep neglecting this. We, out of negligence, we do not think about it, and then out of complacency, we are young, we have the time, and then we do not really think about transforming ourselves. And now, as a human being, it is definite that you will suffer the ravages of old age. And when you are old, then your intelligence would not be, there is no guarantee that your intelligence would be intact at that time. And then your sense faculties might suffer, and your physical capability wouldn't be the same. So these are the dangers that you will not be afforded the same opportunity in your old age. Right now you are young. So as a young person, we should immediately work towards trying to transform our mind, on this transformation of the mind. If you are, so any good thing that we want to engage in or we want to pursue, you need to kind of work towards achieving that immediately. Bad things or any misdeeds, you can keep procrastinating it. There is no harm in that. But good things, you need to try to immediately pursue them. That's So then, but this is not the case generally. We really want to kind of we want to engage in in things that bring us suffering immediately. We do not really want to cultivate the source of happiness immediately. That's it.
Teacher, I need to tell you missing the money sometimes. I should hand the door. I some to do. I made it in the chitu or I made it and sometimes. So let's see better for them get in the door. I see some on the bay, you Germany. The names that doesn't have to shoot on our like chicks. Lapching Yarachi, some Jashambutani to Jela Dogo, they kitchen Buddha. And then we can Hashendo that Jimmy, Ropachain, and the Jamin go to the Mr. Kansa, College of the door. Munden the Hansire, so Bizilu Tang and Chimbagi in the Duenra. The Nahamina, the Mambuchu news, and Mother Teresa in the door. In the room, Korabe, Tashitoning how with the Handa. Mr. Hansa Miller College and Ra, Koran watching. Tanda meet the Tonsanet and I mean the little. The pair in the Ra. And the me, since you should be our Mother Teresa do Lendo. Ra. Cheta did it in Zink, the mean cheated, and dig me up to meet the Drosana, Tandoko mean the hard or Tandaka could have and Tandoko at Pertandi actually. Chetangazu missing Suzuki, can you choose Chioina? So mean the get you my camera, Ine Suzuki gave us a Maumba Millipento and me, by me better. This way the package.
So then, when we think about human beings generally, then it is the capacity or the potential that a human being and the intelligence of a human being has is kind of really wonderful. Then when we think about human beings, then we also notice we notice that there are various examples, real life examples of people who have dedicated their whole life and dedicated all their effort to kind of work towards the well-being of others. And we need to kind of take inspiration from these people. And for example, even though I do not really know the story of Mother Teresa in detail, but I've heard about her, and I know that Mother Teresa had dedicated her whole life towards the benefit of others. And even though Mother Teresa is a human being now, no longer exists, but her name and that figure and her work still serves as an inspiration for many. So this is the effect that generating an attitude of benefiting others can have.
내지 나 까무정하다 야 찬스를 좋아도 왜 좋아면은 좀 밑에 들어오라 좋아이나 아니 좋든데
So there's 15 minutes left to this session. So if there are any questions that you want to ask, then they are welcome. If there are no questions, then we'll move on with the text.
그러면 뭘까지? Okay.
I have a question. More of a request, I guess. I followed the examples about how thinking about yourself can be negative on yourself and others, but maybe another example would help me understand how the reverse way, like how acting for others or thinking about others can help make me and others happy. I think maybe another example can help me understand that.
Tajim Shengi Dewa Shenla Pemba Dumna Ranji Dewadi Ranshingi Duryungi Lagoras. Ani Peshinda Doji Shanayra, and Modi Kowadoji Agarasaris.
배신바지 샤와이나 제다 안데도 쇼느라 배신바지 샤나 정도 다 미신바야 로바야 치워이나 수저랑나 다 되는 시도나랑 것도 알아야 야고 진이들이 이나라 지키다가 하상나다 치 담보다서 고저를 숨은 게 야고 진이나 파기 시소를 팬인 바라 시소 매마 가린도를 팬인 바지 아니 수소가 내가 담보다서 야고 치워이나 수소 강을 고치주라 콜에 야고 따기래 야고 쓰기래 견을 라차이나 야라기래 미기 제나 통치를 두기래 그저 라시 그런 들 마미네 가 통치를 나 야고 치 들 마미네 그런 펜세디 미신바실 빼 고노 넘버 다바기 바로 롬체 산타는 배나 나스 펜셉지라다 사셔와이나라 펜셉지기 코라랑 산노시 마다제 미다다 게다다 가고시 마다제 네버두줄 빼 코라기 샴네 히지기라 녀로고나 챤로고나 그 깔레 가지 가디 카발레 남사 딱 보다 로고 치드니 치드니 미지나 와 코라시 코란다 게다다 미다다 힘바시 와 미기 마음보 심바기 찌그 체 힘바제 든든데 우레사 단게 빼지 샤와 나서 아주 스르월레요 예 잔디가래 그거 보면 지난번에 마음보여라 당가 모심바 뭐라지 보라 디도지 샤와 미스간다 거 찬스 걸어져야 코란기 주주가 코란을 지난 나는 강이 되는 되는데도 아니 강이 되는 아니 고질라니 밀라로 빠치고야다 딱 수수 강이 양사디가라 마마온 밤을 바로 바카니 지고 하고다 아 근데 이전에 아니 코란에 단다 자리가라 되니 다로 딱빠 무슨 간다 딱 그러고 진대시 아 네버스는 집어제마 포는 뭐나 그거나 진 시제 가르자가 가르문이 집어요 그 창문으로 로고 치고 아 그래서 코란게 펜실건 하니 미신 말하러 같이 그 라셀랭 마다 근데 라셀랭 말이라 답이 님바트는 미신 말 근데 진 코란랑 미스 간다 나가 치시데 다도 코란이 끼고 가는더라 아니 미 가서 참아 디셈블 아서이 거야 근데 치스 뭐네 거라 질레기도 나는 항상 근데 라 근데 이 레스타 데데나 시기만 보여라
So when we talk about, when we think only about ourselves and benefiting ourselves only to the exclusion of others, then this is the source of suffering. And then when we are able to think about others' benefit without thinking about our benefit, then our own happiness and our own benefit is achieved naturally as a consequence of that. Now, an example is kind of, we can see this example in any society. If there is a good leader, as I already mentioned, then if he has a pure motivation to serve his jurisdiction or his people, and then because he has a pure intention, he would not engage in misdeeds, right? This is one. And if he doesn't engage in misdeeds, then he is all the more inspired to work towards the betterment or the well-being of his population or his jurisdiction. And as he does that, he achieves results for them. And as he achieves that result, even though he doesn't have his own fame and his own recognition in his mind, he naturally gains fame. He naturally gains the respect of his jurisdiction or his population. So this is an example. And another more relatable example would be the relation that a nurse and a patient has. Right? So if the nurse is able to kind of genuinely practice his or her duty out of love and compassion, then even though the kind of tough duty that he or she has to impart is tough for general people, but if it's motivated by love and compassion, then it doesn't really seem tough for her, and she has more job satisfaction from this. And there is a real life example that I want to recount to you. There is a Tibetan woman in Chandigarh, which is the capital city of Punjab, and most of the major hospitals in the nearby surrounding states are in that particular state. And her name is Dogar, and as a young child and as a young person, she herself went through a lot of suffering, and she faced a lot of hardships when she had to go and consult a doctor or go to a hospital or consult a major hospital. And now, because she herself went through that hardship and had problems in gaining access to the major hospitals and the doctors, and now she has dedicated her whole life to stay in Chandigarh, and without cost she helps anyone who comes, irrespective of whether they are rich, poor, whether they are Indian or Tibetan or any other. She stays there the whole year through, and anyone who needs help in order to kind of go to the right doctors, to consult the right hospital, and any kind of paper work that they need help with, she helps them wholeheartedly. And as a result of this, she has, of course, achieved a great fame too, but this is an incidental effect of her good intention. She didn't set out to achieve aim. It was just an incidental fame that she achieved. And then likewise, she has more satisfaction in her job than a normal person has. So this is the way having the benefit of others in mind has an effect on your own well-being and happiness. Yes.
지난이 지용의 전화도 미 참말하라. 아주 니마치가 취소니 시자시 버치버. 미 슈부 이나레 미 조우 이나레 민진리 이나레 부에나 보면 취소니 시자에 간 참말이여라. 이내 가시기 삼는 소소지 보체데 대표시다. 라. 가시기 리치소니 시자시 신대지 보체. 가시대 대만으로 신대다를 기대. 잠자 따치라게 지금 미지를 록바치 고서를 올래나. 다 미신바지 그런 데네로 바지로지 데네치로지 망바지 저런 레드나 다야디 주주지 그런 주주니 시다시면시요 당이 말라 델레치는 파길레 제마도 있는데 리다 드디갈 따치나기 가를레 펜도 쳐야더라 민망사들 펜도서들 치고라 봐 데데지게 강이 쳐서 갑자라로 스리키는 강이 온들 쳐 계속 저는 로바치 얘기인데 받는 요이나 딩가 나도 미이들 남주 다 비주다야로 아다 코는 마저라제 베이면 칼로 자라를 키사서는 어디를 로방을 치고라 야미 마뉴로지 미직 당한 주자니 자스면 가르지노 마 펜도서들 치워라 저는 주주들 집어지자래 돼요 그 뒤에도 수수 담가지야 돼 계셔무다
Yes.
네
So then the 24 hours that we have in a day is common to all of us. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And then some of us use these 24 hours only to think about our own benefits. Some of us then dedicate this whole 24 hours to think about others. And then most of us kind of do it half and half. Think about others as well as ourselves. And now when we look at this situation, the time that we have in a day is very limited, and it's the same for all of us. And now if a situation arises wherein like there are many people asking your help, one from this side, one from that side, one from another side, one from the back, and all of them are asking for your help, then how are you going to make the best use of the time that you have? Now herein arises a question or a dilemma, and in such a situation I find it very important. It is very important to kind of use our ability to discern what would serve the situation best and what would be the best use of my time. And in this it is important to take two things into account, like in which area would I be able to benefit the most people. One is to take that into account. The another one is to like who really genuinely needs my help in this particular time, to discern that. So we need to be also skillful in discerning like how how to make the best use of the limited time that we have. That's
아니 찌개 매지기 진 저는 로버로 longe도라 디디가 문이 찌개 당내 쳇 빼기 처음으로 아가 디스메가 가라 내가 치고는 그 이제 강에 휴지티네 안 결혼을 해와지 그라 결혼이 가지 아버지 지그레에서 내려와지 그라 들어가서 점점 야미 타임다 계속 결혼 뒤주 짜와니네 막하나 콜레 데히야 저리가 문에 데레페 뒤주 자라 시키송 일 치를 지도문에 내 산이 지고스 아니 게 제마도는 게 동무실에 치료실라고스 그라 안 결혼 데 강에 되는 인데 있는 거 뜻이 지칼로 소치도는 데 하시르 제마도네 심마파는 망아야 돼 뺏기 좀 그라 가서 미기 파기를 해와지 저거라 그 지도그래서 저라는 미버지 통달라 단도 먼저디 가와 본 거야 아니 이제 나를 제도에 미버지 통하는 거 가지라 근데 소소가 딱 뭐네 인데 인상 제고해지라 지랑이 제고를 딱 계속 계속 이미 마투 자다로 쉬쉬게 계셔면은 미 계셔이나 봐야 보시야 그라 근데 제도 뺏기 좀 그랬어
Now I also want you to think about this situation. If someone approaches you seeking genuine help, then not to kind of refute that person harshly or discourage him immediately and then deny him immediately with harsh words. First, you need to acknowledge the fact that he or she has taken the courage to ask you for help. You need to acknowledge that, and if you are by all means, if you are not able to help him in any way, then it's a different case. But if you are able to help him, then it is very important to acknowledge this person who seeks help and try to help this person. And if you are not able to help them, then don't use harsh words to this person and deny them harshly that I don't have the time and so on and so forth. Just be gentle with this people if they have taken the courage to ask you for help, and also realize that he or she comes with the hope that this person has the ability to help me, and take joy in that fact that this person sees this ability in you, and in this manner try to practice benefiting others. Yes.
But why not?
Any other questions?
Yes. When we look at the text, it chooses very certain words that we didn't talk about. So I'm interested to know, I don't know, it has been translated, so I'm not sure if this is a translation thing or not, but this, I find it interesting that the text uses the word wish fulfilling jewel to make because that gives also my perspective still is inside that wish fulfilling jewel. It's not the most expensive jewel I can find in the world, but it's a wish fulfilling jewel. So somehow this my perspective, I'm asked here to let go of my perspective, but at the same time I'm used to still use my perspective and discernment also in the situation. Is that the dilemma you were just talking about? And that is also connected to the highest aim. Aim. What is that highest aim? Maybe we can discuss that a little bit more.
I didn't understand the question about wish fulfilling jewel.
May I add something to that actually, if you don't mind?
Please add something, and maybe you can also.
Yeah, I think what interests me just by hearing that actually, and just drawing my attention to this. Wish fulfilling jewel implies an interest. Like a genie lamp, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want something from that wish fulfilling jewel. So if I want to treat somebody more precious than a wish fulfilling jewel, it implies that I may want something from them in return.
Does it or does it not imply that?
Does it or does it?
Maybe that's a good question.
거기라 나요라 건전이 라야치나 이신노불레 하고 따오르라 거라 이신노불라 디코랑라 건조 도바사이거다 이신노불 라와sam기 다 디엔지나 조리데 잠바 셈나 삼조 두미기 노부딜라인 거라 wishful feeling jewel jurera 이신노불레 하고 따오르라 데잠바 이신노불라네 찌코조조라 디코랑 이신노불라 디코랑 따두 잠바 이신노불라 디라니 소소로 찌 고코도지 요바 충게도스 이신노불라나 직 룹고에도지 자기라 딜라 말람잖아 디 룹기어레라지 아니 딘데 삼노당나 심진디 이실로불레 하와이는 삼노당나 심진라 펜다나 심진산의 지수라기레 사메로지 삼노지 키보르베스 지디르드라 니바데니 가르사 튼조루베 삼발레주라 튼조디 카르레스
제 다딩게 따이 지단 쇼인젤 상타에 두레라 지단 페시 가시나라 수수 나라즈기 미치디 싸와치고 임브라 수수기 밀 아주 텐조니가 와라 지로와 대화지는 저지 다디가 런페 모르야 이내야 다다 코란즈 카요라 이신노불레 하라파데 이신노불레 가서 가르쳐고라나 gond을 건중네 싫어 베베토레라 이신노불레 베 싸와친 거죠 가르고에는 가른데오에는 소소 가르상고에는 딘두데 인지를 쓰고 와 근데 인상 담당하라기 루덴디 가리니 가리니 제도 그랬어 미기 팔을 가르고고에는 가르 콜 가른데오에는 정말 제도니가 밀자와신 거지 타이르스라 근데 인상 얘기들이 다리 나라기 루덴은 전에 그 이신 노을에 하바지 베다 항상 얘기가 이신 노을에 남사를 내라고 라셔주지 말아 근데 인가 밀이 아버지 타이르 딩게 톨라 마다니 아니 예배기 자와야 아버지 두고서 더 직코런 저 지당에 어디다 시제 뺏기신 거라 근데 상당 그랬어
튼조레데다 타르바라
튼조레데다 튼조주바데 신도르와 파기라 신도르 다 기시 던덜럽 친구샤는다 고 타바다 상지 참바 살에 태투에 내기라 디 마이네 파기라 직 편도체 미친시
So then when we look at the translation it says a wish fulfilling jewel and now this is to illustrate the point that human life is precious and very hard to find. This is what he's trying to illustrate first. And then when we talk about human birth from the Buddhist perspective, then we also talk about the 8 freedoms and 10 favorable conditions that is very unique to the human birth. Now we will not really need to go into detail for these, but it is kind to drive home this point that human birth or human life is very precious. It is even more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel because it accords us the opportunity to practice the Dharma and to benefit others. And now when we talk about the highest aim here is to, at a gross level, at an immediate level, it is to help others. This is the highest aim. But the ultimate aim is as a bodhisattva or a bodhicitta practitioner, then it is to, with this altruistic intention that not only do I want liberation from samsaric suffering for myself, but I want liberation from samsaric suffering for everyone else, all sentient beings. So this human birth gives you exactly that opportunity that a wish-fulfilling jewel cannot give you. So this is to drive that point home.
Sorry, it says all sentient beings.
Yes, you are a sentient being too.
Yeah, but not all sentient beings have precious human birth.
디온 찌글니 니두라 다다 미지 친데지 티셔주다 니유라 딜라 카르레나 디강라는다 신전 당지 시시 노블을 하 그래서 신전 당지 이신 노블을 하가라디 신전 당지디 배 자청 뭐 쓰다 이네 자와 하라나라 카르라나 다디 찌기 코랑 고진 시티도 자와 나로라 카르라에서 다니 신전 당지라 달나 수수셔라 다니 신전 탐지 라라디 얘기 나랑 파 신전 당지를 지도했다고라 아니 이신 노블이 라페는 나라도 가르스는 이신 노블이 수자 좀 쉬고 가 쉬고인 나오면다 네 얘기면 심발아 신도도야라 아 이신 노블이 다 차이돼 됐어라 아니 가르치는 아니 디 차비 주드 가르스는 전초 두비 삼발라디가 나데 샹바다 니제다 샹니제 샹주생라자 전초 두비 삼발라디 삼바데 디체라 따데 제번 점버쇼스라 딘데기 삼바 장보지기 파기라 아니 제번 점버쇼라디가 파기라 따들은 뒤따 주메 봐라 진치메 봐 제번 잡발라디 파이들라 배 강이 티디지도들 젠젠체 봐 상정체 제번 잡을 쇼라 된다 된디지다 봐 시코랑 모돌도 와이나 이는 고제들라 칼라드는 심제 탄지 이시진을 해라라다 라 이네 자와 카랑나라 엔데 파리다
다 박신냠지래 디돌렌주라 디도지
단지 심제 탄지래 이신도를 해라베던 주드베 삼바이 따르 제번 잡을 쇼라디 제상 가랑이 따디 얘기 밀리들라 아니 신심제 하지라 봐 이 내가 로봇 치토야디 이시기 노부기 건데 삼아테 도라 Tinashiki, Natari mi, Lunetawati, Ye, and Pakikangi, Dudula, and some situ. Tia Karigo, the Situ, and Shanga, Hiji, Tindi lost on with any Ying Julia, that she was sure later.
So now this appears to be a very problem in the translation itself. When we look at the Tibetan, then if we look at the actual root text itself, then herein the wish-fulfilling jewel serves as a metaphor for the practitioner himself or herself, that the fact that he has taken a human rebirth. But in this particular translation, in the commentary, it kind of refers to the sentient beings. The metaphor is applied.
I think you can understand it like this, because like thinking of all sentient beings more precious than your human life. So then it makes sense.
Well, there's another translation that says, with the determination to accomplish the highest welfare for all sentient beings who surpass a wish, even a wish granting rule, may I hold them supremely dear. If you look at it like this, well, yes, because they are more precious than a wish-fulfilled jewel, because a wish-fulfilled jewel can only fulfill the aim of this life. But if you take care of all sentient beings, then you can achieve Buddhahood, and you can also take them to Buddhahood. So that is a higher level. That's my understanding.
The engineer and this ra.
Engineer pa simjen la jariyongda.
Simjil Papan Solar.
Mari the page jayarada. Ishin no bole lak be la jura. Simjen the issue no bole lak ba re la li jariyong.
Thinking by thinking of all sentient beings.
By thinking of all sentient beings as like more precious than a wish fulfilling jewel. Simjian Tamjera, Ishinobu Lai Haba, Samborel. Pretty Pajar.
I had a comment while in the first question, while I was waiting for your translation of Geshema's answer. I realized this is for an English speaker, so perhaps you can explain them. If you add IR for accomplishing their highest aim, Geshema's replies makes perfect sense. Because it's essentially for the contribution of all sentient beings. So if you just make for accomplishing their highest aim, then the entire this makes sense. So it's a bit of a joke, it's a witty one. You can explain them perhaps. I don't know if it will make sense in Tibetan.
Tagoilana Tagin Tiwapiros. Tani Simji Damjala Ishin Nubulak with Tunjo Dubi Sambai, Tauchibo Zimbarsho Lyres. Dinala Tunjo Duba Lejora. Konzu Tunjo Dubar Samba, Yi Tauchibo Zimbarsho, and Konzo and Tunjo di Konzola Pajar Nasra. And it and the engine of Jurira. Simjin Hamji Ishin Nubule Hako Zingurela. What did Takadoji didos?
Because with the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings. So this Konsuki de Chok Chepeche de.
The Chitanga to Injela Koya, Chitanga to Injela Karitin Koya, Nangoya, Jibuchuan, Dubuchuan, Karinra, Mother did the root Homata, so Chigo, Marazaki, the Watama, Pagishin, Sinjela than Leora. Ra, Chilera. Dewakondi and Color Pagi Shanks the Water. Dunia Sosugi and Sosuchipan Zabalatin, Sosu Jinzen, Chinli to Laja. Chitan Dijala, Komachupa came to Shan Pagila and Ozuki, Sosu Sonam Sasakin Chawara, Pagila Ropache, Culture and Colonna Sonosagi, Anzuki, Chichagdu, and Suzuki, Chichan, Nijada, Hanchu, Semi Yamne Chini, Kalo, Pashin, Jing Debakan to the Ninjala Santa Shoda. In a Zawakara Navakara Dulana, Dani Simitaji Lajdo, Tiger and Yegipa and Shimbala, Shin Nubuna Shigipa, Chituaji, Tinda.
So then if we look at the Tibetan root text itself, then the metaphor wish-fulfilling jewel is kind of applied to the practitioner himself or herself as a taking human birth. But now in this interpretation or in this particular translation, then the metaphor is applied to the sentient beings themselves. So there's, I think, there's no harm in interpreting it either way, because when we look at the relationship between one and others, then all sense of like happiness, well-being is accorded to us when we think about others, and all sorts of suffering comes when we think only about ourselves. So there is no harm in interpreting it both ways. Yes.